Welcome to the People Strategy Forum. We are here to dive into the critical role of personal branding in leadership development. And joining us today is Tom Powner, the visionary founder and CEO of Career Thinker. So after a notable career of 25 years, Tom has been shaping business development and operations and sales. And so he's highly proficient in really branding and making sure that we're selling ourselves. So Tom launched his company in 2011, dedicated to empowering job seekers across the world, and really with his expert resume writing and LinkedIn optimization. And he really helps professionals hone their interview coaching or interview skills overall. So when you're going through the interview, making sure that you're articulate and you sound great. So he's a nationally certified online profile expert. And Tom is not only a respected leader in the career services industry, but he's also an influential educator, helping professionals maximize their personal growth. So his insights have enlightened many through workshops and seminars, making him a trusted advisor. So for those looking to ascend into their roles, Tom is a key person that you need to have in your Rolodex. So today he brings a wealth of knowledge to us, sharing strategies that can help you articulate and project your unique value as a leader. So join us as we explore and sculpt a personal brand and show you how that's done. And today's competitive landscape, it's important to stand out. Well, Tom, it is so nice to have you here today. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm kind of really excited. I love speaking about this stuff. It's what I live and breathe every day. But one thing you mentioned, I'm the National Certified Online Profile Expert. I actually created that certification course through the National Resume Writing Association. So I am and COPE, but I'm also the teacher and the creator of that class. So I bring a lot of knowledge. And to add to the description of what I do, I have a recruiting arm to my business. So we recruit for 4 national companies. So we get to see the challenges from both sides, the hiring and finding the right opportunity.
Oh, that's great. So, and Tom, I mean, just what brought you into really? I know you've done some sales in your career as well. What really brought you into helping people find their personal brand?
Well, it's a quick story because there's some reasons why. When I decided to leave corporate America, I was making a really good salary. I loved what I was doing, but it was a lot of pressure, the job. I suffered from kidney stones, a little personal information, for many years, 72 stones in the past 5 years. And my doctors kept saying, "This stress is stress is stress." I never believed them. And then when I decided to leave that year, my mom had passed away on my birthday. And those 2 life events made me realize maybe it's time to make a change. And I decided basically to cold quit corporate America. And I had in my mind Career Thinker, a business that would help people connect the next career opportunity. And where that came from, in the 90s, I was a district manager for Caldor department stores. I'm aging myself a little bit. And when they went out of business, I started these not webinars back then, these seminars and these classes. I was in charge of 22 stores. How do you find your next job? And there were store managers, other district managers. So I helped hundreds of people. I always loved that feeling from that time in the 90s. So I just kind of reinvented that philosophy and I started Career Thinker. That's where it came from.
So what is why do you believe that personal branding is so crucial today? Why is it? I mean, I know that it's not necessarily a new thing, but I think that it has more of an emphasis in modern day. Is that true?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, in a sea of resumes, and I don't, well, let me back up a little bit. I don't call it a job search anymore. I call it a career marketing campaign. So when you're ready to leave the nest and go out and find a new opportunity, it's not a job search, it's a career marketing campaign. And when we think of that way, we should think differently. What should be on your resume? What should be on your LinkedIn profile? What message are you sending to people? What value are you showcasing right up front? Those are the things we want to make sure that starts off the conversation. And a lot of that just really circles around what's your professional, personal brand that you bring to the table. So I think it's more important now than ever, especially, I don't know if anyone's noticed, I do because I'm in a business. Job postings are getting anywhere from 800 to 1,200 applications in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. So the competition has never been fierce as it is now. But how do you stand out? And your professional brand is going to help you do that.
Right. And then, and one thing that you mentioned, as far as, everybody thinks about personal branding and when they're looking for a job, but the important thing is that we should really give focus on this all the time, right? Because our personal brand is not just for, it can actually find us those opportunities while we're in work, while we're not necessarily in need. And also it can help leaders better attract and retain people into their organization. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You shouldn't wait to think about your brand. You should really know your brand, and a lot of people don't. That come to me when we start talking about branding. What are your superpowers? What do you do better than most people? A lot of them just don't know that or don't feel it. So you really want to know your brand. So you always try to improve on it. And sometimes that professional brand can shift as we get older. We learn new things. Different things matter to us more. So your brand is not locked into something that you discovered at 21, and now you're 45. You're using the same brand. It could definitely change.
Hmm. Right. And so, what are the best ways that leaders can really uh, express their brand? What is the when you start an engagement with a client, where do you start?
Well, we first start with a target, a where they want to go. Obviously, if you don't have a target, you might not hit anything. But when it comes down to crafting a resume, the LinkedIn profile, those branding tools, those marketing tools, what do we really what comes natural to them? What do they naturally bring to the table that they enjoy doing? And when you tap into that, and those become your main successful tools in what you've been doing for the past 5, 10, 15 years, that's when the brand starts coming out of them. And you can just keep building on it and creating a nice brand message that kind of becomes your backbone.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there, one of the key things we're going to really dive into here is LinkedIn and going through the different sections. I mean, that is the dominant tool for personal branding, especially in the United States. And so Tom's going to take us through the different things that we should be focusing on in that LinkedIn tool here coming up. But before we do that, Tom, what are the other ways that people can enhance their brand? We know that there's LinkedIn, but what are the other channels and out there that they can leverage?
Well, we talk about social media because LinkedIn is social media and social media in general. We can't say, "Oh, I don't. I'm going to avoid social media," and you can try to avoid it. But if you want to get your brand out there and build it, there's a lot of different types of social media platforms you could do that on. Also, professional ones, more personal ones. But your brand should kind of weave through all those social media platforms. Social media has been around since the early 2000s. I would say from 2010 to now, the past 15 years is just part of our culture. So there's a lot of other platforms you could start building your brand on. What do you put out there? As far as articles, do you write articles? Do you write posts on these social media platforms? A lot of leaders have their own personal website to share their brand. There's a lot of different ways to share your brand. Did you write a book? It doesn't have to be a 500-page book, but did you write a book about what you do or what your voice or your opinions? So there's a lot of different ways to build on your brand and get it out there.
One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of our talk here was I mentioned the word Rolodex. And so for those people that don't know what a Rolodex is, I mean, it is something that was used to keep your contents or contacts. And in the old days, you kind of twist it and go through with, we have these little cards. And so, and that is, we have, of course, our contacts online right now in a CRM tool and LinkedIn and so forth. But the reason why I wanted to highlight that is what is the importance of really leveraging your internal network, and how does a person do that when they're in their career and during the job search?
Well, you kind of have to be conscious of it. And you talk about I call that the Rolodex too. different people network differently. Sometimes LinkedIn's a perfect place to build a network. Sometimes you want to go to your Rolodex, because if you know the people, it doesn't matter if you haven't spoken to them in 5 to 10 years. If you know the people, sometimes that phone call is so powerful. When they hear your voice, the conversation feels like you only haven't spoken to in a couple of weeks. So depending how well you know the people, I mean, when I started Career Think, I had those business card boxes where you get 500 cards in a box. I had like 5 of them that I kept saving over the years, or people I'd done business with, vendors and whatnot. It took me the first 2 weeks to go through all that and see who was on LinkedIn and connect them, to kind of bring that world into the digital world. But if you know the people, a phone call could be a lot more powerful. If you don't know the people, sometimes digital networking will work better to start off at.
Right, because the main objective here for whether you're in a job or currently, or you're looking for one, is you want to get in front of those people that you want to influence. You want to influence for either for your next hire, or in business and so forth. And so, what are the best ways to get in front of those people there, Tom?
Well, you kind of want to have a target. So if you're finding yourself getting into a job search or phone into one, you want to have a target. So I say target companies over job postings. And we talk about leadership. I mean, that could be the leadership team, could be the C-suite team. Have a target list of companies you want to work for, and then see who you should know at those companies and start building a network around that. And lots of times, just looking at your old network, like I do this in my class, I have a philosophy: where are they now? And I go to my past company where I worked there for 11 years. I was very well liked. I was successful there. So I could go back to that company on LinkedIn and see where they are now. I could look at people that used to work for that company, see where they are now, and they could be someplace I might want to go. So there's a lot of different ways and philosophies to get in front of those people. But you have to build that network, and you have to have that network. Otherwise, you can be building a new network, which is fine, but it takes a little bit longer sometimes.
So one thing, Howard, I know that you're really good at really keeping in touch with people overall, and your local area and so forth. And what are your favorite ways to keep in touch?
Face to face. It's definitely harder now. Given people's schedules and people working from home, but nothing beats that. And even though you can do, Zoom calls and video conferencing, it's not the same as when you interact with someone face to face. Grab coffee in the morning before they start their day, or grab a drink at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be something that's 2-3 hours, but nothing beats that day-to-day type of face-to-face interaction. In my opinion.
And just to dig in that a little bit more, I mean, I know. Do you think that the face-to-face piece is more dominant in the pre-social media generation, or what are your thoughts?
No. I think it's fading. I think it's challenging. I think what I see is you can have much broader outreach. Today leveraging technology. But I think it's a little bit harder developing those deeper types of relationships versus when you're interacting with someone. So I've tried to keep my network going from the past companies that I've worked with. I put myself there out as a guide and mentor to many people that have worked for me, and just trying to continue those types of relationships and interactions. But I think the younger generation has more challenges than maybe we had.
Yeah, right. And so, Sumit, I'd love to hear your perspective, because you are networking on an international scale at a lot of times. I mean, you have people all across the world that you're working with, and so what is your best way to keep in touch with people?
So with so much of gray hair, it's a little odd to be called in when you've just mentioned younger people in the earlier sentence. But I'll take a shot. Um, so I kind of agree with Howard. I think it's much easier to build deeper relationships when you meet face to face, even if you migrate that relationship online later. So I think breaking the ice in a face-to-face conversations. There's still no parallel for that. And the so-called virtual coffee is a very poor substitute, but I think it just kind of comes with the territory. When you're working across the world, you've got to take and make the best of whatever you're getting. Um, but I don't think those relationships are as deep or as meaningful sometimes. What I do to ensure that they're being nurtured is, so of course, there's no physical Rolodex anymore, but I try and flip some of those cards in my head, think about people I haven't spoken to in a while, and just have a few no context conversations with them, just to say, how you doing, how are things with you, and is there anything that I can support you with or help you with? Not from a sales or doing some paid work kind of perspective, but just kind of catching up. And I think it really helps in keeping that relationship alive and going.
I think that's really cute to what Tom mentioned. I mean, Tom was talking about adding value in a relationship, and sometimes that's even in sales. Tom, I mean that some of it is just keeping in touch and making sure you're retaining that relationship. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, like what I do with my clients, when they get a new job, it goes right in my CRM. I don't forget to send them a happy anniversary. Try to send them a thank you card when they worked with me. Try to send them a congratulations card. Checking in, like that was mentioned earlier, checking in, how's it going. 3 months after they start a new job, check in to see how it's going. Sometimes we make the wrong decisions, so there's a lot of different ways to stay in front of it, but I do think it's somewhat generational, because even with the hiring process, with all these AI video interviews happening, the younger generation is just, okay, no big deal. I get on my phone and do an interview. Where I find the clients a little more, live through their careers, are less, they're more reluctant for those type of interactions. So I do think it's generational a little bit, the TikTok generation. And those are the future leaders. So we have to make sure we adapt as needed.
Sam, you're muted.
So let's have a little discussion about the future
Are
leaders.
we dinosaurs then?
No. Dinosaurs roamed the world for millions of years, so we're not dinosaurs in that aspect.
So one thing about future leaders, Tom. I mean, we just one thing that I want to dive into really quick, because there's some anxiety I've been hearing from leaders recently about the next generation of workforce, and this is nothing new. Everybody is always like, oh, the new generation. What are they going to? But the unique thing here is that this new generation was really impacted by the pandemic and being at home, and their work style and their communication style and developing relationships is different. And so what do you expect that how do you expect that to impact the future of networking?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've had many clients that, the last 2 years of college was, in the basement at home. They worked for an internship in the basement, and then they were like, go out in the world and start your career. So I think a lot of people impacted in a lot of different ways. But I do think, a lot of that will just weed off as time goes on. But we have to have a combination of networking. We have to, be comfortable with video networking, Zoom calls. I think Zoom calls can be very effective, a video call, a Zoom call. But getting out and going to networking events, whether you go with a friend or a buddy, getting out there, meeting people, because I do agree. I forgot his name. They said before that one-on-one interaction physically, we see the body language. We get to feel something different when we meet people in person. So we need a combination, and we have to be conscious of that and just make sure we just get out there and do all kinds of networking.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things that that I love to do is my thing is I'm on Zoom all the time, and I do a lot of traveling, and so when I do travel, I want to make sure that I'm meeting with people face to face when I'm in that location. So I make that a priority. But I leverage Zoom a lot to ensure I'm keeping in touch with people, and you can have these quick 15-minute meetings just to catch up and maintain your network. And I find that to be highly effective. So, Tom, as we talk about these tools, and we mentioned LinkedIn, I'd love to dive in and get your thoughts on how people should leverage their personal brand using LinkedIn as the primary technology. And so, what is the first steps there, and how do you guide a client?
Well, there's a lot of components to a LinkedIn profile, but typically we won't do a LinkedIn profile until the client's resume is complete. So the resume is going to establish the foundation of a LinkedIn, especially when it comes to the career experience section. Because as a recruiter, when I look at a career experience section, I need to see the value. I need to see the return on investment value they brought to that company, the improvements, the outcomes, the contributions, the KPIs, if they have any. And then we go into the LinkedIn profile. But LinkedIn, there's so many different touch points to get your brand across. The first touch point is your headshot. We want to hire people. We want to speak to happy people. So a happy headshot, not a goofy one, but a happy one, actually goes a long way. We feel that positive energy. I've seen some people that look like prison guards. They're like, okay, this is going to be a bad conversation, and it's not. It's just the headshot was wrong. So we want to take pride in the headshot. You don't need to be wearing a tuxedo or suit and tie. It just needs to look professional. That's the first visual point. The second thing is sometimes the name. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stigma with a lot of different types of names. So LinkedIn has that little voice button you can activate through the mobile phone, and you can pronounce your name. Hi, I'm Tom Powner. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to build my network. Simple like that, 8 seconds. So people can hear your voice before they speak to you. The next thing we want to actually make sure you have a really strong branded headline. That's a 220 character position beneath your name. It needs to establish who you are professionally or where you want to go, and then some key elements, whether it's going to be a quick brand tagline or some top main keywords that you're proficient in that's connected to who you are professionally. Right there, before I click on your profile, I'm getting engaged. Happy headshot. I can hear your voice. I can read your branded headline. And then if I decide to click on your profile, then the next thing that becomes a visual point of branding is that banner image behind your headshot. What is it saying? I'm a sunset guy. I like to take sunrise pictures, but putting a sunrise picture on my LinkedIn profile, there's no branding for me unless I add some context to it. So making sure we have a banner image that kind of visually brands us in 2 seconds. Those are the first initial things that we want to make sure every profile has. I could go on.
I'd love to hear more. So is there? So I want to get in after we talk about the different components. I want to talk about actually showing your brand through posting and content in a moment. But are there any other sections in LinkedIn that we need to really highlight on that are critical?
Yeah, there's quite a few. But the next thing is the about page. They used to call it the summary page. They changed it to about page about 5 years ago. LinkedIn wants you to talk about yourself. A lot of people don't do that. They kind of repeat the career, or they have one large paragraph. I like to break the about page into subsections. So if you're someone that leads large teams, what's my leadership philosophy? And maybe have 5 short, powerful bullet points that explains your philosophy in leadership. Because when we write large paragraphs on social media, they don't get read. No matter how much we want to read them, we just don't read them. Recruiters, hiring managers, people network, and they just don't have time to read. When you break it down, those are the things that will get read. And if you're a salesperson, what's your sales recipe? How do you drive sales? How do you build strong teams? I want to know more about the things you do around people. That's the way I attack the about page. I think that's extremely effective, both from the recruiter's side of recruiter's point of view, and as you network, people want to learn about you. So I think the about page has a lot more value than people give it. And recruiters do read about page, especially if they're already engaged with your LinkedIn profile. Then your career history is another important thing. We like to mirror the resume, but sometimes depending on your role and industry, your current position, your current company, you might have to be careful what you share on LinkedIn. It might need to be watered down or numbers taken off. Or if you're working on a new drug or a new program, a new software, you probably can't mention it. But your previous career history is I want to know what, not what you're in charge of, I want to know what you accomplish. What are you proud of? Where did you make a difference? Most people don't do that. So I read LinkedIn after LinkedIn after LinkedIn when we're recruiting that is like, nothing there.
Yeah.
So those are the main key areas. The project section, we could do a little deeper dive into special projects you work on. You don't need to be project manager, have projects. We could call any main function or outcome a project. The skills section drive the algorithms. So there's so many different things you get on LinkedIn to get found. We have to remember a lot of people get found or through networking find jobs, more so than applying for jobs.
Okay, well, let's dive into those algorithms you mentioned. And so you mentioned that the skills section of LinkedIn really influences the algorithm and drives the right people to your page. Is that right?
Well, when I'm a LinkedIn recruiter, and we use LinkedIn Recruiter for two companies we recruit for, you can't apply for the jobs unless you know someone of a job is open. So if we're looking for a director of marketing, we go into LinkedIn Recruiter and we do a talent search. We kind of reverse engineer the job posting. We go in, we enter everything we look for. We have these search filters already set up. There's about 60 different search filters in LinkedIn Recruiter. We turn them on depending on what we're looking for. For us, it typically narrows the field down from 120 to 160 candidates at the end. If we put a job posting out there, we get 800 applications. So we're narrowing down the field a lot stronger. So a lot of that is based on the keywords, especially when I'm looking for someone with these skill sets. Like right now, where I'm hiring a territorial sales manager, and they have to have 2+ years of experience with Salesforce. If Salesforce is not on your LinkedIn profile, I'm not going to look at it.
Right.
So the keywords become crucial. Even when you apply for jobs with the ATS system, it's no different. So we want to make sure we have the right keywords, the right language. And now with AI, generative AI coming into the play, it's not really there in that aspect yet, but with the ATS systems and the LinkedIn talent solutions, once generative AI gets into the play, we can understand and predict content. We can look at the content, the history, and we can predict the future success depending on what they have on the LinkedIn. That's going to be pretty amazing.
And so, and for our listeners out there, Tom, I want to make sure that we really define what an ATS system is. Could you define that for us?
So the applicant tracking software system, basically, when you apply for a job online, it takes your resume and it parses it, compares it against the job posting, and comes up with a relevancy score. There's about 200 different ATS systems on the market. They're all kind of built on 6 or 7 different software platforms. But basically, it's trying to help their hiring team spend time in the right resumes. Because if I get 500 applications, I will not read 500 resumes. It would be a gross waste of time. So the ATS system helps me choose the resumes that seem to be a better match. That doesn't mean the best person is that, but it helps me filter through these resumes.
So it sounds like that in the modern way of looking for work and between jobs, we really need to design our resume to really resonate with ATS systems. And instead of not everybody's picking up and reading. And so having those graphics or fancy formatting may not be helpful, huh?
No, as long as you know what the ATS system is reading, you can have a resume that looks stylish. Or a lot of those really graphic resumes don't work well in the ATS system, but that doesn't mean you have to, get away from having a resume that looks really stylized.
I see. All right, so back to the LinkedIn factor. So whether you're looking for a job or you're in your current position as a leader, we can use our personal branding to not just look for work or that future job, but also help attract the right talent to your organization and retain your people through showing your personal brand. So what are your thoughts on how to really highlight that?
Yeah, I mean that could be highlighted in all the things I just mentioned earlier. The about page, how do you if you comment on other people's posts, getting your brand in those type of comments, because you don't have to post to get found on LinkedIn and then get some feedback from LinkedIn's social media. You could actually piggyback other people's posts, and if a co-CEO of a company wrote a post or posted something, you could comment on that. So making sure your brand is actually infused in everything you write and share. That's a great way. And again, you want to build that solid brand, because when people actually want to work for your company, a smart job seeker would actually look at the leadership's LinkedIn profiles, what type of people working for the company. A lot of people might go to Glassdoor to find out, what people are saying about the company, but you could go to your leadership's LinkedIn profile and get a good vibe. So getting your personal brand throughout your LinkedIn profiles is important for so many different reasons. Helps attract the right talent. And then if you leave one company, you go to another company, and you have that strong professional brand, personal brand, and people are attracted to it. When you leave one company, you could bring talent with you, and that's how most people move around in companies. The boss brought them on board.
Yes, and I have to say, I mean, I believe that if you are a leader that has a team of people that are going to move with you no matter where you go as a leader, I mean, that is a powerful brand.
That's golden.
Yeah, that's definitely golden. And if we, as CEOs and founders that are listening out there, I mean, you should really check and identify those leaders that have that power, because it can, if you end up losing those leaders, I mean, it can cause significant business interruption. And so it's important to know the power of your leaders' brands overall, for sure. Now, one other thing I want to dig into a little bit here is just the posts and contacts. And so as a leader that is putting content out there, what's the power of, I mean, is there any benefit of having followers versus contacts, or is there any magic there that we need to know about as far as personal branding?
Well, contacts and followers are different. Contacts, you accepted their connection request on LinkedIn, or they accepted yours. So there's some type of synergy there. There's a reason why you're connecting. Followers, and LinkedIn came out with this about 5 years ago. LinkedIn lets you follow people, especially people that you believe in, people that you might want to work for in the future. So your followers can be extremely important. They may not connect with you, but they're following you. So I think the brand message you put out there is equally powerful to both your connections and your followers. And again, LinkedIn maxes off the connections at 30,000. Seems like a lot in today's world, maybe not. But you have unlimited followers. I know people that have 2 million followers, that when they put a message out there, it gets a big reach. So it depends your purpose, and if you are doing a lot of posting and sharing articles, writing posts, whether it's on LinkedIn, any social media platform, or even your own website, that could get people to understand your value and understand your branding message very quickly.
So let's talk about some of the gaffes that you're seeing out there that leaders are doing when they're posting content, or they're trying to create a personal brand online using LinkedIn. What are some of the pitfalls you see?
Well, just putting out content for the purpose of putting out content. I think the content should offer value, teach you something. So when people read your content, wow, that makes sense. I believe in that. So it doesn't have to be the status quo. It could be your point of view about something. So it needs to really touch people. So many people just go out there, they go to ChatGPT, they write something, and they plop it out there. I even tried that a few times. I felt good because I got something out quickly, but I didn't get any good feel. I didn't even feel good about it. So it has to come from a place of importance to you. It's something you want to share with people that follow you and know you. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. And just putting out content that's poorly written. Sometimes less is more. So a short post or a short article that doesn't go into the nitty-gritty of things could probably get a lot more feedback and a lot more people reading and learning about it. So those are some of the pitfalls people do. And right now with generative AI, people like just going on and just popping things around. I could look at an article, and I know AI and how it writes, and I can say, okay, that looks like or feels like it was written by AI.
Yeah. And so, Sumit, I'd love to bring you're back in here, because I know that you have a wide following on LinkedIn, and you're known as the culture guy on LinkedIn. And so, and you have a ton of engagement, and I know a lot of that has to do with the type of person you are. You're very genuine and authentic. But what do you think is your secret?
Kind of like the secret ingredient. It's more about staying away from AI when it comes to writing or expressing oneself. The second is not talking about everything under the sun, but trying to double down on culture, which could be what's currently trending culture, what are some of the recommendations, and writing for specific or small and medium businesses with about 40 to employees who are struggling to retain people or struggling to unlock productivity. I will try to tune my messaging to them instead of trying to write. And more than what I value in is comments. So I try and look at posts that appeal to me. I try and are leave some comments which prompt respond and kind of.
Yeah, I think, as someone who reads your postings, I think they come across as very authentic, real, emotional. You tackle some difficult situations. You put out, maybe somewhat controversial opinions, but that's fine. That's always good to have dialogue and conversations around those. But it just feels, as I said in the beginning, very real.
And so, as we talk about posts and authenticity, Tom, is there a, of course there's kind of the positive and negative, meaning that being having a positive mindset, and then there's also a negative mindset. And then as we're looking at branding and so forth, I think some people are attracted to a negative mindset because it can get more attention. From a personal branding standpoint, do you think that there's a better or a way that resonates the best for personal branding?
Well, you can talk about negative concepts in a positive way. I mean, I'm a Taylor Swift fan, so I'm gonna put that out there. But you look at what she's been through, all this negativity around who she is and stuff. She never loses focus, so she shakes it off. One of her songs. So I believe in being positive, and what Sumit said also, making sure you're writing things that have value, bring value to people, comes from your point of view, but yet teaches them something. But it's so easy to write something negative, even having a negative headline so people click on the posting. That's very easy to do. And in our political climate, that seems to be what we're filled with, which is a whole different topic. But just stay true to yourself. When you start going down that rabbit hole of sharing negative and making a post very negative, I write a lot of negative things about in my industry, but I write it in a positive way. I mean, the hiring system has been broken. I've been writing about that for years. But I don't use foul language. I don't use nasty comments. I try to educate people. How could we make it better?
Great. Keeping it constructive and that good feedback. Well, great. Well, as we are approaching the end of our time here, Tom, what are the key things that you want our listeners to walk away with from this discussion?
Well, I think sometimes don't do everything yourself. So if you want to improve your own brand, if you want to improve your leadership, get a coach. There's a lot of different types of coaching. There's career coaching, there's leadership coaching, there's negotiation coaching. There's a lot of different types of coaching. Get someone else's point of view, because sometimes we just don't know it all. And then once you establish that brand, make sure you understand that brand. And sometimes even Post-it notes around your mirror in the bathroom, because it's so easy to forget about what we want to concentrate on. So, and then keep building on your brand. And then, and then once you know your brand, infuse it in everything. Infuse it in your conversation. Infuse it in your literature in the company. A lot of people, even with the bios on the company's website, they wrote it. It's so friggin' boring. So even your bio on your company's website, get your brand infused in that. And if you have an old bio up there, create a new one. Get it interesting. People will read it, and just your LinkedIn profile, everything should be around your brand. And again, our brands develop and evolve as we get older and we get more experience. So what I cared about was when I was age 21 is very different than what I care about now. So keep reinventing yourself.
Are there, Tom, pitfalls to avoid when branding yourself so you don't come across like too salesy or too pitchy?
Right. It's never about selling a product or service. You're selling you, which is different. You can be a product or service, but you're selling your core, what you believe in, your point of view, and what people will feel when they do business with you. So concentrate on that, not the product or service. That will come later. You want to build in sales 101. People buy from people they trust and who bring value first, and who they like. So work around that, and then it'll come naturally. Obviously, I'm selling services, but I never push it. I just tell them, this is what I could do for you. So I'm selling my value. I think that's one of the best ways.
Great.
So tell us, Tom. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, Sam. So I had a follow-up question from what Howard was asking, which is, if you're present across different social media platforms, like let's say you're on, of course, LinkedIn, you're on Instagram, which is a more personal platform, and say Facebook as well, how do you maintain a certain degree of consistency so you don't come across as inauthentic, but at the same time, you are also able to not let, I could be talking about anything, religion, politics, various topics which may not be appropriate for a professional brand. How do we make that distinction?
Oof, that's a big problem and a great question. So visually, you're having headshots that look the same, and sticking those cues with the branding. But when it comes to what you share on Facebook, because what I share on Facebook is kind of different. I don't care if people know my private life. But if they do have a problem that I'm a gay male who's been married to another man for 25 years, that's kind of becomes their problem. So I'm not afraid of that. But some people have totally different things. And when it comes to religion, politics, I never post anything about politics or religion on my Facebook page because I know that will have a deeper impact. So you just have to feel comfortable with what you share and what people can know. And if you're really scared about, because as a recruiter, we check out if your LinkedIn page, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your TikTok page is available, we will look at it. And most companies will, especially when you get a certain point. So, that's a really good question. So sometimes keeping your personal profiles locked down a little bit more can be a way to escape that stigma. But it's a problem. Because when clients come to work for me, we'll take a look at those platforms. We'll give them a summation of what we feel. So.
Great advice, and I fear for those poor young generation that put a lot of different things on their social media and to later regret it. Is this a true problem with the younger generation putting things that perhaps they shouldn't?
It could be generational, but I'm telling you, it's not just the young people. I am telling you, people think it's like, oh, I'm gonna put this, forget it. It's bad. It's bad across the board. Maybe young people are a little more free about the videos and stuff, but you have to see what people put out there.
You must have a great story, Tom.
Even when it comes to elections, how people are so ingrained into my point of view on elections is right, and the things and the nastiness they share. And even in the comments, if I look at someone's Facebook page and I see they commented on a post and I see what they write, it's so evil, mean. I don't want that person on my team. I'm sorry. Yeah. They can have conviction about how they feel about something, but they don't have to express it in that way.
Right. Good thoughts there. Well, as we come to a close here, Tom.
So the reason I was asking
so many good questions.
Right. So there was a recent case in India where an employee was fired for liking a LinkedIn post. So they liked a post about a toxic workplace, and the next thing they knew was they'd been fired. Of course, they wrote about it, and they kind of, the employer ended up proving the point about the workplace being toxic. But again, as a coach, what would be your advice? Did you just put your head down, get right to work, or you just deal with the fallout in case stuff like that happens?
Well, if you're working in a toxic work environment, well, yeah, you got to get out of that environment. And if you're going to be in a job search, voicing your opinion at that point in time is probably not a good thing to do, especially if the company has access to what you post. So get a strategy, get out of the company, and then share with the company what they could do better. There should be an exit interview when you leave a company. I'm not sure how it is in India, but in the US, when you leave a company, whether you're fired or you quit, there is an exit interview, and that's the proper place to bring up your grievances. Don't bring it online because it will come back. And again, no matter what the situation is, as a recruiter, if I see you bashing a company, writing nasty things because the culture is bad, there's truth on both sides and there's truth in the middle. So I don't know what I would think depending on the company. If I knew the company had a reputation, I might just ignore it. But if I think the company's a good company and you're trashing the company, I think you might be a troublemaker if I hire you. So keep it quiet until you find your new home, and then you could actually open up the doors a little bit. And do it in a constructive way, because a lot of grievances and a lot of negativity about companies, sometimes the leaders just don't know because the other middle leaders aren't sharing. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. Yeah. You can have an amazing lead in the company, but your manager sucks, or vice versa.
And I think that when we're writing feedback like that is if we do it in a constructive way that's not hurtful, then we can really influence companies and leaders for the good. So it's just
and that shows good leadership skills right there.
Right, very good. Well, Tom, I as we close up here, what if we have our listeners out there that want to know more about you, want to know more about what you're up to and how they can get some help? What's the best way of contacting you?
Is my name, Tom Powner. It's not common. There's only one other Tom Powner in the U.S. on LinkedIn, so good for that. LinkedIn. Contact me, send me a message. I'll offer anyone a free review of the LinkedIn and resume, so you get an understanding of where we feel as professional your LinkedIn is, and then you decide if you want to team with us for more information or just revamp it yourself. I mean, for yourself. But I love doing those reviews and meeting people that way.
Great. Well, this has been a great conversation. I know it's inspired a lot of interest in all of us, and so I can just imagine what our listeners are thinking out there. So I'm sure they'll come with you with questions. So thank you so much for your time today, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Oh, I can't believe it went by so quickly. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed speaking about these topics.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a great time with these podcasts and meeting people like yourself and talking about these wonderful topics. So thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. Well, take care.
Take care.
And we'll talk
to you guys.
Yeah, talk to you later. All right. Bye.